Shabbat Shalom. Welcome wherever you are joining us. We're so grateful to have you with us. We miss you and we feel your presence around us. Let's take a nice deep breath of Shabbat air, breathing in everything we want to hold on to and breathing out everything we want to let go as we head into the Shabbat and into Passover. May this be a Shabbat of peace and rest. May you find what you need in our service here tonight and over this time, and may you find joy despite everything that's been going on in the world and with the virus. I'm going to invite over Bruce Korus, our synagogue president, who's done just a wonderful job during this whole pandemic, to welcome you officially.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and happy Erev Passover, I guess we would say. Last year, Passover was the first really big event during the pandemic. It hit not that long after we started, and everyone scrambled, and we were virtual and Zoom, and we did what we could. And who would have thought a year ago that here we would be 1 year later, and we are still apart, and many families are still apart this weekend, but we're together. This family of our temple family is together. We're together tonight with on the stream of the service, and we'll be together over the weekend virtually, and that's the important thing. We are still together, and while we are having our holiday traditions in different ways, we are having our holiday traditions. The traditions continue. The holidays are important, and we are celebrating them. We have, of course, a full weekend of Passover activities for you. I'll have all the details on that coming up a little later in the announcements. And in the meantime, again, happy Erev Passover, and enjoy the service. We're doing it this way this evening so that the cantor and Paul can bring you some very special Passover music to get you started on this holiday weekend. I'll be back a little bit later with the announcements. And Shabbat Shalom.
And don't go too far. We need you to light candles in a minute. So Cantor and Paul Staley that are with us, they're going to have a beautiful Debbie Friedman song. Oh. See, Cantor and I were production assistants too, which Bruce appreciates. This is Light These Lights by Debbie Friedman.
Peace, oh
beautiful, and I think that's time to bring Bruce over to actually light our candles. And I do appreciate we did get some texts in to let us know that Bruce was not on camera for the beginning. He was, I guess just his voice was being heard.
I think when Kyle had vacuumed in here, he moved, of course, moved things around to make sure everything's picked up.
So if there is any disruption in our service, do text Cantor or myself or Bruce or Joanne, and we'll try to make accommodations because we literally can't see what you're seeing. And so that's one way that we can communicate with one another. Oh. Bruce tells me the match is lit behind me. And the candle lighting prayer is on page 120. I'll invite Cantor to lead.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are the candles that light our way through Shabbat. I'm going to invite Bruce now to lift up the cup, page 123, for Kiddush, and I'll turn it over to Cantor again. Don't give away. Bruce was showing that there's no alcohol in it.
I know, you just drank it all already. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maseh v'reshit, ki hu yom tehillah le'mikra'ei kodesh, zechem etziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kedashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim.
Chaim.
To life. So as we gather here, and Bruce has this wonderful Shir Shalom mask. I'll tell you, it's funny walking around with the mask. You can't tell if you know people or not. How many of you have had that experience where you're walking near someone and you think, is that the person I know or not? I had that moment with Herb Sugar today at Wegmans. I was walking by him. I was entering Wegmans, getting my Passover shopping, and he was leaving with his Passover shopping. And we kind of pass each other. We're looking at each other. Is it the right person? Is it the right person? And then we said, oh, Shabbat Shalom. Anyways, and when we greet Shabbat, which we're about to do with L'chad Odi on page 138, hopefully we see Shabbat fully and are able to see one another, or at least imagine one another as we greet. So we're going to sing the first and last verses, and then on the last verse we rise and we face whatever doorways near you, and we bow to Shabbat as she enters, and then we welcome in all the people in our room, in our space, and we celebrate them. We remain standing with our call of community, page 146 for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu at Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. Let's turn to page 149 if you have your Mishkan Tefillah. And it is the second reading on the page, and please join with me. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw near, draw back, or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother or my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother or sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hamariv haravim. Blessed are you, God, who brings forth the evening. On page 150, we sing about our love for God and God's love for us with Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה.
Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Bless you, God, who loves us. We turn to the Shema 152, 153.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch shekevod malchuto le'olam va'ed. Baruch shekevod malchuto le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. We turn to the Via Hafta on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מיותיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אלוהים מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך בשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתמתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לרעיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you are tired or you are rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gates. They are reminders to do all my mitzvot so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. That section is almost exactly the message of our Passover Seders. And with that in mind, we turn to 158 for the Mi Chamocha, and I think you are going to be recognizing this melody. Blessed are you, God, Redeemer of Israel. I invite you to rise for the tefillah, which begins on page 164, and we'll do the beginning, the first few blessings out loud.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi tehillatcha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, U'Mevi Geburah Lifnei V'Nehem, Le'ma'an Shemo V'Ahava, Melech וחוזר ומושיע מגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, וחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפור. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום מלך, מלך מביט ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקיים הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום בהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Before we continue with our silent prayers, if you just look on page 168, Cantor, for the very last time on a Shabbat, recited the prayer for winter. Next week, we begin summer, Morid Hatal.
Oh my.
So that's on the Jewish-Israeli calendar, and it does feel a little like summer. But let's take some time for our private reflections through the end of the Amidah on page 180. So continue with just the prayers of your heart, or the Hebrew or the English, and we'll resume prayers in just a couple of minutes. We're going to take time now to send our prayers out to those in need with our Misha Berach. It can be found on page 370. I think it might be 71, let's say. Yeah, 371 in the middle. I'm going to read our list of names. There's many people in our community we're sending out prayers to, especially during this time. If you have any names, just send them to our office, or Cantor and I, or Joanne, or even Bruce, and we'll get them on our list. And for all of you who are thinking of people, we're thinking of you. So as a community, we are thinking about Lee Applebaum, Linda Bergman, Andrew Joseph Bernard, Marietta Bratton, Sonia Breitbart, Kim Brodsky, Michael Berwick, Arthur Dzelke, Dave Gajewski, Irene Green, Nancy Hersbrunn, Sue Hill, Howard Hilfstein, Ruth Lansing, Diane Lynch, Kathy Mass, Michael Massimo, Jennifer Milich, Frank Petrie, Karen Place, Richard Radis, Martin and Barbara Scher, Michael Citron, Gail Willig Smith, Gretchen Solander, Lorenzo Stewart, Cindy Walgate, Fred Weiner, Lauren Wolf and family, and Hannah Ezra Ben Shual. I invite you to put your own names in if you'd like. If you're on Facebook, we can't read them now, but we're sending, or just send your prayers out into the universe, and I know they're going to be heard. Turn it back to Cantor and Paul to lead us in the prayer. Complete healing of body and soul. And I should also say we're so grateful. Paul over here has been doing terrific, and we're so grateful to hear him tonight. He just sounds wonderful. I know a lot of people in our community have been praying for your health, and glad to have you in a great place right now. So my youngest son has the great infortune of having a birthday that often ends up on Passover. Now you might say that this is a terrible thing, but he was born with a hatred to cake, so maybe it was a good thing. But we did decide to honor him tonight to get some food before Passover. His birthday is actually this coming week. So before we actually have to have matzah, we went and he chose Eastern Pearl, that wonderful restaurant on Maple. We don't go there very often, but when we go there, they have wonderful food there. And of course, you have fortune cookies. And they don't really much give you fortunes anymore. But mine was, I think, perfect for this moment in time. Sometimes good enough is good enough. I thought that was perfect. We turned to each other. That is the pandemic. I was looking out at Facebook this week, and one of our congregants posed the following set of questions to the congregation. Are you less hopeful or more? Were things harder than you would have had anticipated, or easier? Were some things better or worse than you thought they would be? And it was wonderful to scroll down and just see the different responses. One said, I love this one, and I think it's very true for a lot of people. I learned that merging work and childcare didn't make me much worse as a scientist, but made me way worse mom. A lot of sympathy to parents these days. The past year, this was another one, made me realize how I dislike the way I lived, especially my job and everything I had to do with my job. I feel I'm in a much happier and healthier state right now. That was wonderful to hear. I've learned I love my family, and I'm grateful we get along. We definitely spend more time with our family. And lastly, I've learned my faith is much deeper and stronger than I imagined. As we approach the second Passover in COVID, as Bruce said, I think it's a good time to reflect on how far we've come and how far we've yet to go. Lately, I've been reading a book that I picked up at the Amherst Library. Sometimes I just peruse and see what I come up with. And there was a wonderful book in the new section. It was called Humankind, A Hopeful History by Rutger Bregman, and I highly recommend this. This is a social scientist book. It is wonderful and very, very inspiring. And so Bregman suggests that people are actually a lot better than we're given credit for. When we read the Buffalo News, or watch television news, or scroll through Facebook on any given day, you may be convinced that we are truly the most awful and depraved creatures that ever came to be in this world. Take this past week alone, when we had 7 mass shootings, including 3 last Saturday alone. The famous words of Rodney King in 1992 often echo in the air, "People, I just want to say, can't we all get along?" But in actual day-to-day life, people are actually generally good and helpful. Over the entirety of the world, there are very few examples of people actively trying to hurt one another. So why the misconception? For Bregman, there are 2 psychological problems that we run into, 2 biases. One is what's called the negativity bias, which means that we're more likely to look at negative situation than positive situation. If we see a car crash out there, we're going to notice it. If we see someone opening a door for someone else, I'm not sure if we'll be able to see that or remember that or not. There's also something called the availability bias. If we know something happened to someone somewhere, then we probably think that it happens lots of times and that it's a very common situation. That doesn't necessarily mean that. So together, these impulses lead to what Bregman calls a nocebo. What's a nocebo, Rabbi, you ask? Well, you've heard of a placebo, right? These little sugar pills that they always give when they're testing out medication, that actually if you just take sugar pills and you think it's medication, usually you get better. Well, there's actually the opposite effect, believe it or not, which is called a nocebo. If you believe you took something that's going to harm you, or you've seen something that's going to harm you, you actually get sick. There's a famous example of Coca-Cola plant in Europe, where someone claimed to be sick from the Coca-Cola, and suddenly people all over the country were getting sick left and right, and it turns out it was a false claim. There was nothing wrong with the Coca-Cola at all. For years, Danish psychologist Tom Postmus has been asking his students the following question. Imagine an airplane makes an emergency landing and breaks into 3 parts. As the cabin fills with smoke, everyone inside realizes we've got to get out of here. What happens? A, the passengers turn to their neighbors and ask if they're okay. Those needing assistance are helped out of the plane first. People are willing to give their lives even for perfect strangers. So that's A. B, everyone's left to fend for themselves. Panic breaks out. There's lots of pushing and shoving. Children and the elderly and people with disabilities get trapped underfoot. So what do you think is the most likeliest scenario? So raise your hand in cyberspace if you think it's A, the passengers all hurt each other to get out, or raise your hand if you think it's B, that everyone actually is really very helpful. Most people choose A. Surprise, surprise, that's 97%, but actually when they do studies of these kind of cases, it's almost always B. We are good. And how do I know this to be a fact? Well, Passover teaches me that. How so, Rabbi? Think about the story of Passover, where we have Pharaoh and taskmasters, hundreds of years of servitude. What on earth could you say is great about humanity in this time? What about, by the way, all the drowned babies that we learn about in the story, that little piece that we don't like to tell children very much? How good are human beings there? And my answer to you is 2 words, Shifra and Pua. So when Pharaoh asks the midwives to kill the Israelite babies, all the boy babies, do they do so? No. They actively refuse Pharaoh's decree, even putting their own life at risk. And when Pharaoh asked, how could you do this? Why didn't you carry forward my decree? They say to him, Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian woman, for they are lively and deliver before the midwives come to them. So they offer an excuse, which is clearly not correct, but they'll do anything. We can only imagine their fate. It's not told about in the Torah. But there is a sense of the great, great danger that they place themselves in. And you wonder, well, what about everyone else? Don't the babies get killed in the Nile? And that's what we suppose happens. But we have the story of Moses, of course. Moses, who after 3 months, finally his lungs are strong enough. His parents, Amram and Yocheved, want to get him to safety, and they get Miriam to put him on the raft down the Nile, and he's saved by the princess. And we think about that story, we always say, well, Moses is an anomaly. All the other babies are being killed. And I say no. And reading Bregman's book, I think actually that is probably impossible. I cannot imagine human beings actually being so cruel to one another. Moses was not an exception, but in fact, the rule. And when we think about humanity and we think about everything going on, it's easy to think that it's easy to listen to the pharaohs who are telling us what's going to happen. Pharaohs may believe even that it's happening, but it is not in fact happening. And we even see this in the story because it's Pharaoh's own daughter that saves Moses and actually names Moses Moshe, drawn from the water, which is actually my Hebrew name. She was a righteous Gentile. These are the people we celebrate in the Holocaust. And there are actually many, many of them. As I went to Yad Vashem, I was astounded to learn they started by planting, they have a righteous Gentile garden, and they started by planting trees for every righteous Gentile. But they actually ran out of room there because there's 27,712 righteous Gentiles in there. So they have to actually just write their names in books at this point. And they come from 51 countries. And no doubt there's even more of them that we don't know. And what also gives me faith in humanity? Well, you do. We've seen this in this pandemic, reflecting back. The way we've come together to make sure not a single congregant has been left behind. We are not the exception. I believe that we are the rule. Shir Shalom is an example of the way human beings are designed to work together. That is our superhero skill, our key advantage over all the other animals. Actually, I was just talking to a congregant today who just was astounded. She just picked up her Passover box. She said, people have been calling her. She said, how do you do it? I said, we have a lot of helpers here, a lot of people chipping in. So as we enter our second pass under COVID, let's not enter in a pessimistic state. Let us think about the many ways we were helped out and were able to help out others over the course of the past year. A Zisin Pesach, a joyous holiday, one where each of us in our own way makes this world a better and more hospitable place to live. I'm so, so very grateful to share this planet with you. Shabbat Shalom.
Egypt's to Leave by Mark Aaron James, a modern take on the 4 questions. It's not about rebuilding time or just let my people go. That's history, that's theater, that's from history, from theater. Sometimes that's life. It comes down to what you believe. And we all have our own Egypts to leave. We look back in order to look forward. We see that we are among redemptions and acts of freedom and births of possibility. We might not have seen, but we all have our own Egypts to leave. Yeah, yeah. Why is it this way? Why on this night? Why not that way? Why not upright? 'Cause of what God did for me. And to show God we believe. We all have our own Egypts to leave. We look back in order to look forward. We see that we are among redemptions and acts of freedom and birth of possibility. We might not have seen. We all have our own Egypts to leave. Why is it this way? Why on this night? Why not that way? Why not upright? We look back in order to look forward. We see that we are among redemptions and acts of freedoms and births of possibilities. We might not have seen. We all have our own Egypts to leave. Yeah, yeah. Egypts to leave. Yeah, yeah.
So believe it or not, Cantor and I planned the service separately. She picked the music and I picked my words, and sometimes they fit together perfectly. Page 5, what a beautiful melody, thank you.
It's the kind of song that you don't want to end. You just want to keep singing it and singing it.
That's definitely true. And the good thing is on the way we have it now, they could always rewind it. After the service, though. We invite you to rise for Aleinu, page 586. It's not enough for us just to pray. We need to go out and do good deeds in this world.
Aleinu לשבח לדור הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא עשנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא עשה כגידו קהל, וכל מורינו ככל הבנם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים מורדים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591. One day, God's name will be one. You may be seated. We're going to turn now to our Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. We had 2 deaths in our extended family this week. Helen Donnelly, who is the aunt of Edward Seafried, who now lives out in the West Coast, but I believe might be tuning in tonight. And Charles Lemansky, who's the youngest brother of Alan Lemansky. Our hearts and prayers are with you, Alan and Michael. On our Shloshim list from the past month, we're remembering Herb Foster, Francis Massimo, Dewey McCoy, Livy Palmer Jr., and Muriel Rosenthal. On our yard site list from years past, we remember J. Bernard Erwitz, Thomas Bergman Sr., Izzy Barasco, Edith Crandall, Nancy E. Masana Engel, Sanford Galernter, Sarah Gelman, Goldberg, Lou Goldberg, Jenny Gorbate, Mayor H. Gordon, Dr. Joseph House, Fanny Eisenberg, Lieb Kaplan, Mary Klein Katz, Donna Kleizek, Samuel Kotlov, Franny Kranowitz, Fagi and Boris Lipsitz, Samuel Mackler, Frank Moscow, Jane Ovid, Rose Pick, Rose Rubin, Morduk Shore, Stuart J. Singer, Jack Sperling, Robert Spiegler, Stanley Taubin, Warren Tepper, and Lily Weiner. I invite all those whose custom it is to rise or who are in mourning to rise right now, and we'll recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah B'alma Divra Chirate v'yamlik Malchute B'chayachon v'yamachon v'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael B'agala v'zman Kariv v'yamru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Olmei Hamaya Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei D'Kudesha B'rechu Leila mikol berchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata damiran b'yalma v'yimru Amen. Yehi Shalom Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'yimramav hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol Yoshvei Tevel v'yimru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world, and we say Amen. Zikranam levracha. May their memories always be for a blessing. I'd like to bring Bruce Chorus up again to offer our announcements.
Making me, okay, here we go. There we go. She keeps moving me tonight. I can do this. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. A very special thank you to Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, and Paul Staley for really a special service. If this didn't get you in the mood for Passover, I don't know what will. The music, where are you? You're hiding. The music, that song, sing it again. Go ahead, sing it again. We got time.
Well, I have permission from the composer to record it, and I'm hoping to put that on my Passover album that I'll be working on the next year.
Excellent. That's a beautiful, beautiful song. And your talk tonight, Rabbi, it was. I mean, I'm going to go home and eat matzah one day early. That's how much I'm in the mood for Passover. That's how much I'm in the mood for Passover.
Oh, it's worth the wait.
Okay, I'll wait. So tomorrow morning we are going to have Torah study at 9. This is awkward. Okay, we're going to have Torah study at 9 a.m., junior congregation at 10, Shabbat morning service and virtual Kiddush luncheon at 11. Everything is on Zoom. Then, of course, Passover begins. Tomorrow night at 6:30, we will release the Passover Seder in Zoom Gadach, led by Rabbi Alex and Cantor Frank. That's going to be on Boxcast, Facebook, and YouTube. You can watch it and follow along with your own Seder. And on our app, under Rituals to Go, you can find the 4 questions. I'm the youngest person at my Seder. I get to ask the 4 questions. That hasn't happened in 40 years. Then, of course, Sunday night, we have our second night Seder. It's a community Seder. We will be joined by our friends from Temple Beth Zedek, Temple Beth Zion, Congregation Havarah. It will all be on Zoom. If you have not registered yet, please do so. Joanne just told me we have 7,000 people signed up for this. No, we do. We have a nice turnout. So please do, if you haven't signed up yet. That's going to be nice. We're all going to be together. And because it's a virtual thing, no one's going to be complaining about the soup. Well, there are, but it's their own soup, so they can complain. Then let's see. Sunday, there is no religious school because of the holiday. Next Friday, other Passover stuff, by the way. The rabbi and cantor created a Passover Seder PowerPoint slide presentation. That's available on YouTube for you to use whenever you like. We're a liberal congregation. If you want to do a third night Seder, whatever, it's there for you. We hope you are enjoying the Passover boxes that we've been giving out. Chocolate-covered matzah and macaroons, plus a box of regular matzah for you to enjoy during Passover. And we hope those of you that have made arrangements to take part in our virtual Seder match for the first night of Passover will enjoy that. And then on a somber note, we will be having a Passover Yitzker service next Saturday, April 3rd. That'll be at 10:30 in the morning via Boxcast, Facebook, and YouTube. Speaking of next Saturday, we are going to be having a really fun event next Saturday night. That will be Noah Boudin joining us for a virtual concert. That's next Saturday night, 7 o'clock p.m. via Boxcast, Facebook, and YouTube. As Passover comes to a close, he will be joined by David Boudin on bass and Alan Douglas on keyboard. That's next Saturday night. Next Friday night, we will be having our candle lighting at 6:45, Erev Shabbat service at 7. Those will all be on Zoom. We're back to Zoom for next Friday's service. You will need to register for the service. The candle lighting, just tune in. And then, of course, following the service, since we're on Zoom, we'll hang out for a little bit, for a little schmoozing. If you need anything at all, please feel free to contact the rabbi, the cantor, Joanne, or myself. We are here for you. We wish you all a very happy Passover, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you, as always, for being part of our Shir Shalom family. As we hit our second pandemic Passover, we are still together. That is the important thing. And I look forward to Passover with optimism and with joy. And I so look forward to the day that we are all together. Shabbat Shalom.
So, Bruce, you know what also is next Saturday? It is Jenny Pohl's 101st birthday. This past week, we had Wilma Igger's 100th birthday, and she looks amazing. Oh my God, I got to be on her birthday Zoom, and she is so incredible. She published a book at 100. Who does that? It's incredible. So we're going to conclude with a song. I think it's not in our prayer book, but it's in the Haggadah, and it's also one we already heard the melody for earlier. Dear Who? We lift our challah symbolically. It's over there. I think maybe it's going to Paul again. I don't even know. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Eat your bread. You only have a day left. As you came in peace, may you leave in peace. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you over Passover. Shabbat Shalom and happy early Pesach.
Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach.